It's definitely one of the better states, in my opinion, for opportunity, because this year is going to be a good year. And I don't care if you're looking at the 𝗙𝗃𝗹 or 𝗃𝗃𝐶 or the Arizona Strip. Like, if you have the points to draw, try and draw a tag. Because they can hunt it every year regardless.
Welcome to the Built to Hunt podcast, brought to you by the team of hunt advisors at the Huntin Fool magazine, where we are dedicated to helping our members go on more hunts with better information. Join Huntin Fool today at huntinfool.com.
All right, welcome to Built to Hunt podcast today. We're going to talk about the upcoming Arizona draw. This is the fall draw, so we're mainly talking about deer and bighorn sheep. However, if you are building points for turkey, javelina, or bison, you can apply for a point only and get an additional one that you can use in the spring draw coming up. So now's the time to do it. So Garth and Austin here. Garth has done a lot of research on this state, some of the changes. Obviously, we're close to Arizona. We have a lot of points vested there, and so we keep up with the moisture and what's going on. Got a lot of good outfitters and contacts in the state, and it's a state everyone should be considering, especially if you already have a license from applying in the elk and antelope draw earlier this year.
And realistically, this year, if we're looking at the amount of moisture, I mean, I know everyone is paying attention to that has points in Arizona, but it really is true. I mean, there's a select number of states in the Southwest that live and die by moisture as far as antler growth.
Yep.
And Arizona is definitely one of them. I mean, we've seen bucks in some of these areas that can be drought-stricken for years. Some of these old mature bucks they'll come in at 180s. They'll come in on a heavy rainfall year, just spring green up, and have some May showers to kind of sustain them. Next thing you know, that same 180 buck could be in the 230s, 240s, maybe even bigger. So
that's a big jump.
They definitely live and die by moisture, and this year they have the moisture. In fact, we're still experiencing heavy runoff, but we're still having rainstorms come through right now.
That's what I like, right? It's not just going to grow a bunch of grass and feed and then burn it all up in early June. Like, we are getting, they look like monsoons, lightning, thunderstorms, heavy rain in pockets coming all through southern Utah and northern Arizona. I love it. It's really going to be neat for Nevada and everywhere.
That's what's going to set Arizona apart this year. Hopefully you have some points that you can burn, because this is the year to do it, especially if you're looking at mule deer.
Now, obviously, 26 points is the max for deer this year. And most of those applicants at 26, well, almost all of them are non-residents.
Yeah.
Like, it's a good state because half the permits are still going to go random. So even if you're not sitting on 26 points, you still have a shot at all these units we're going to talk about. It's important to remind you of that. If this was Colorado and we were talking about just top deer units, it would be a different conversation. But everybody's got a shot. However, if you find yourself sitting on, 18, 19 or more points, you need to look at what you're doing carefully and see if you want to try to put a permit in your pocket this year.
I mean, at the end of the day, Arizona does have a select number of units that they manage for a little bit better quality, a little bit better trophy potential when it comes to mule deer. They have a lot of general units, for lower point totals, things like that you can jump in there. But if you're looking at what everyone looks at when they think of an Arizona mule deer, there's only a select number of units. I mean, Arizona Strip, 𝗙𝗃𝗹𝗹, 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝐶. I mean, you could throw that one in there because they have been producing some pretty good bucks in there.
Sure.
Especially on this year, same thing with a lot of moisture down there. But they have multiple hunts that you can put in for, like you're saying, at 18, 19 points. Maybe that hunt wasn't so attractive to you before, but now this year, and oh, by the way, they've rolled all these season dates back a full week.
That's right.
So now that hunt that was early, basically the last part of October, it's going to run into November now.
And it's not that they change the management of deer seasons or the structure. It's just how it counts off the weekly calendar.
Correct.
Right. So they say it starts on the Friday of week 48 or 47, whatever it may be. That's what determines. So based on where we fall on the calendar year, this is the latest we get dates. Yep. 2023, and that's all species. Elk, deer, everything is just later than normal if it's based off the week of the year.
Yep. It seems like the only one they don't curtail that to is sheep, right?
Yeah.
Sheep hunts or
Sheep
sheep
are
hunts.
different.
Yeah. But the rest of the species, they run it off that day of the year.
So they like to start their hunts on a Friday. Give you that full first weekend is kind of the opener. So 12A East, 12A West, and I'll throw in 12B as well. That's what a lot of people consider to be the 𝗙𝗵 Plateau area. Obviously, those are vastly different units.
Right.
12B having the fewest amount of permits, 12A taking the majority.
Yeah. And, I mean, realistically, you could say 12B and 12A West, those are two totally different areas. I mean, the reason they're so short on 12B is because it extends that you can hunt the entire unit of 12B. Once you shrink that down to 12B West, they capitalize on a lot of migratory deer that are either coming from Utah down in there from the 𝗙ance, or they're spilling off of that north end of the 𝗙𝗵 Plateau, and they're kind of moving down into some of that lower desert country. Great hunts.
Yeah.
They did phenomenal last year. With the later season dates this year, I would expect them to be even better.
It's going to be a different experience because of those dates. So we're talking, 12A East has a muzzleloader hunt, and that's going to be November 10th through the 16th. And that's going to feel more like a rut hunt than it has in years past.
Yeah, yeah. These season dates, them rolling that back, if you've been sitting on points, now the muzzleloader's a little tough because if you're a non-resident, there's not enough for a bonus tag in either one. So you're kind of stuck with it. But at the same time, like some of these early rifle hunts, yeah, you start rolling them back and they're starting to end in November. You might want to think about cashing in your points, especially if you subscribe to the theory of you hunt the year and not the area, right?
Yep.
Because this year is going to be a good year. And I don't care if you're looking at the 𝗙𝗵 or 3A3C or the Arizona Strip. Like, if you have the points to draw, try and draw a tag.
No matter where you're going.
I don't think so. I mean, like I say, it just try and get a tag, because you might, like next year, we might roll out and we might see another 4 years of drought. You just don't know.
You don't know. And what I like about those early, I mean, we call it early on the units that have an early and a late season. Mm-hmm. Early, like you're saying, starts October 27th through November 5th. I mean, that's almost the last day that Utah ends our rifle deer hunt.
Yeah.
We end on the 29th this year, and Arizona's just getting going with those late hunts. So that's going to be with those early hunts.
Early hunts.
That is an early hunt with fairly late dates, getting to hunt till November 5th on an early season. Now you say, well, heck, what does that look like for the late hunt? If you had enough points or you just want to roll the dice on your first choice with a hard to get, you're going to be November 24th as the starting date.
That's insane.
I mean, that's basically Black Friday, day after Thanksgiving this year, and that won't end until December 3rd, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that's a hunt that's worth sacrificing your Thanksgiving plans for.
Oh, for sure.
I would probably do it if I could draw the tag. But, you know, when we roll back to the amount of points it's requiring, you know, we saw 12A West last year jump up into that max point pool. You had to have max point to get a preference tag or a bonus tag in that unit.
Yep.
And that's kind of shows to the quality that they've been harvesting off of there. And after looking at what they harvested out of there last year off 12B West, 12A West, I mean, man, it was definitely warranted. The amount of bucks that they shot in there, over 200, was surpassed anything on the Strip last year.
I know, looking at the photos we decided to use in our June magazine in the state section, most of the big deer are 𝗙𝗵 deer from last year.
Yeah.
Not the Strip bucks.
Nope. No, and the Strip was an off year for sure. I mean, trail cameras had something to do with that. That was that was the first year you couldn't run trail cameras. Drought had a lot to do with that. There wasn't a lot of bucks that were coming into the year in good shape. I mean, it just, like I said before, it lives and dies on moisture.
Yep.
And last year, the Strip kind of died.
Yeah, for sure, because tag numbers have been pretty stable, slightly decreasing on the Strip, unit 13A and 13B. But the 𝗙𝗵, we've seen a reduction of permits the last few years. Now we're status quo this year, which a lot of the locals, a lot of the outfitters are saying, yes, please keep these tag numbers low just for a little bit to preserve some quality.
Yep.
And it's working, right?
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot more deer on the 𝗙𝗵𝗹. You're going to maybe have a more enjoyable hunt, but you're going to see other hunters. You're going to see big camps around. You're going to see, road hunters, pressure that way. It's not the vast wilderness of the Strip that people are accustomed to with few deer densities, lower, tough country to hunt.
I mean, if I was sitting on max points and I was going to hire a guide, I would definitely not leave 13B off of that, or 13A for that fact.
Sure.
Because the how late those dates are in 13A for that rifle hunt this year, that's insane. I mean, it's a tough hunt, don't get me wrong, because there are few and far between. But if you're going to hire an outfitter regardless, it's going to be a fantastic hunt.
Yep.
I mean, hard hunt, might not see that much, but the end result, as far as boom or bust, you could hit it out of the park in either one of those units. And this is a bounce-back year. I got a feeling that these deer are going to put on, or these bucks are going to put on a little bit of antler this year, if not a lot of antler from last year. But you're in such a small percentage to draw the tag.
Sure.
So if you absolutely want to tag, you might want to look at, say, a 12A West or a 12B West to secure that tag and make sure that you're hunting this year.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of guys say, well, I've got a bunch of points, or I only want the best, so maybe I'll wait till next year. 2 years of good moisture would be the best. Well, yeah, if you had a crystal ball, that would be awesome. But judging on the last 15, 20 years, we don't get a lot of good moisture years back to back. It's kind of boom and then bust for a couple of years, and then boom, good again. But we're still getting spring rains. We're still getting storms rolling through. Like, there's no shortage of feed, and it doesn't look like it's going to dry up that fast with the amount of thunderstorms rolling through southern Utah, southeast Nevada. It's pretty neat.
It's looking great. I mean, you can go into each one of these states out west and say, if only, if this was. I mean, I'm sure all the guys that sat out Wyoming last year and said, hey, man, if I can get one more mild winter in Region G, I'm hitting it out of the park. We're going next year. Well, guess what? That didn't happen.
They're smoked.
Yeah. So now it's the same thing. I just think this is the year to go. So if you have the points to go on a mule deer hunt, you should probably use them.
And if you don't have the points, you don't have enough, do not just say you're building a point. Please throw in for the random draw. Half of these non-resident permits are going to go random, and someone's going to get it. And on a couple of these other units, 12B, 12A East, muzzleloader, 12B West muzzleloader, like, those are going to be random only for non-residents. So you please apply if you're listening to this. South of the Grand Canyon, if you're wanting to do something else, right? We all want the best, but there are some other hunts. 𝗙cie, 27 this year as a December rifle hunt. I mean, what could you expect out of that? I mean, in my experience, a lot of guys set themselves up to be disappointed if they don't look at it for what it is.
Yeah.
If you just want a chance to go to Arizona and see some neat country, see a bunch of elk, and go on a cool deer hunt, there are some other options. But these units are not throwing 200-inch potential, 220, 230 type bucks like the 𝗙𝗵𝗹 or the Strip can throw. If you're looking for a good representation, have a good hunt, and burn those points and move on, there's some options.
Well, and that's the biggest difference in my mind, is just really the quality. Not to say that they don't have good quality in these units, because they manage 𝗙cie for mature bucks.
Sure.
Right? So the biggest difference, in my opinion, is when you look at a 𝗙cie rifle hunt, it's a solid hunt. You're going to see mature bucks. It's good country to get around in. A lot of people say it's not that glass bowl. It's probably as glass bowl as the 𝗙𝗵𝗹.
Yeah.
Like, 𝗙𝗵𝗹 isn't that great to glass until they get all the way down in the bottom. So if you're looking at that, realistically, 100 tags for 𝗙cie, and yes, they have been reducing the number of permits in, say, like 12A West, 300.
Right.
So already you're like, okay, well, now I've just tripled the amount of hunters in the unit, and now it's incredibly difficult. Even 12B West, which I've always thought has a fair amount of tags for as early as that season is, as many deer are typically in that unit at that time, that's 110.
Yeah.
This year's might be a little different. Like, I might have a different thought about applying for that early hunt this year just because of the late season dates, and we're going to get some movement into that unit. But, yeah, I think those are still great hunts. If you're okay, like, say, 170 plus, and you don't want to see as many people in the field during your time frame, still an awesome hunt.
But like you say, if you're going to hunt the year, not necessarily the unit, but you're going to hunt the best year you can, I'm going to be looking for a unit that's got quite a few permits, and I'm probably going to look at these early hunts. And we call them early on the units that have 2 seasons, just to designate which one's early, which one's late season in September. There's not an early October hunt.
Right.
These are late already.
They're still late hunts.
You're going into November with a 𝗙𝗵𝗹 early permit.
Yeah. And, I mean, like, you're probably not going to see a whole lot of rut activity, but it wouldn't shock me if you saw a group of 15, 20 does in a little basin and an old buck decides to put his nose in there and sniff around and see what's going on. An old mature buck drops it. I mean, it wouldn't shock me to see that.
No. And same thing on the other side. If you don't start till Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, is that going to be a full-out rut fest, or could it be tapering off for some bucks? What would you say?
I think it could be either or. My gut would tell me, just because I've seen how late some of those deer really get going down there, you're probably going to have a very good rut fest. I think they're going to be getting after it. But, yeah, there's potential for some of those to already be done. Some of those does will be covered. It just seems a little, at least in that area from what I've been in there, it's a little early to have them all covered and have them. I think it's going to be incredible.
It's going to be awesome. Doesn't end until December 3rd on the late hunt.
That's insane.
That's pretty crazy rifle hunt. So if you can get that, great, but definitely do not apply for points for mule deer. Man, if you're trying, please throw in the random draw. Costs the same. June 6th is the deadline. We'll have results by the end of June sometime when they get around to it. And
you'll have a little over a month to prepare.
I guess this is where we'll plug.
If you get an archery tag.
Make sure you have a portal account set up properly. Make sure the point total in your portal account matches. Do not trust the state. Verify it yourself. Make sure you take note of your customer ID, not your department ID, not your social. Make sure your customer ID in your portal is what you use when you go in to do your application, because that's what makes sure it's tied to the right amount of bonus points when you're applying. And it is the worst system in the West as far as applying. We've done a lot of our own internal audits, I guess I'll call them, of their draw reports, of their bonus point reports, and they are scary at best. Arizona is running a very antiquated system. They're trying their best. I'm not pointing at the individuals working there, but the system and the portals and the duplicate accounts, it's messy. It's very, very messy, and I don't see a lot of integrity in their draw reports.
It is disheartening when you're reading down through those draw reports and you come across hunts where there was absolutely no bonus tags issued in the bonus pass. Like, it's a little alarming. Because full well that there had to be permits. I don't even care if it's residents.
Right.
Like, I completely understand that there is situations where there's no bonus permits for non-residents. If there's less than 20 permits, yeah, you're not getting a bonus tag. But residents get them. And we've came across where people have not drawn a bonus tag for a hunt. That just can't happen.
It doesn't make sense. It's not like a Colorado report that we're used to reading, where it's very clear, produced, black and white. If there's any question or discrepancy, you can read the regulations and see why it happened, why it allocated the way it did. They give you all the totals before, after, during the draw. Arizona is just like, here's a report we printed, and it may have been before we got returns, credit card declines. We're not really going to say, and we're moving on. And it's not great for what we do. Just all I can say is don't trust Arizona. Check your account carefully. Make sure you apply carefully. Make sure your credit card's good to go, because you never know what those guys are going to do.
I mean, we've had issues, obviously, with duplicate accounts. guys going in there when they tried to merge all these and everyone created a portal. Yeah, we got in the situation where there's been some duplicate accounts created, and guys will apply based off of their other account, which somehow got created.
Yep. Who knows?
So, yeah, double check.
Coues deer. If you're not a mule deer guy, or you've already done the mule deer thing and you're like, I don't have enough points to even mess around in that game, coues deer are probably the most stable animal in Arizona.
Yeah.
As far as trophy quality is concerned.
Yep.
They have the ability to turn up good bucks in so many different units, from the pine trees, central part of the state, all the way down to the Mexico border.
Just about every unit.
Just about. Such a fun species to hunt. If you haven't done it and you're looking for an opportunity, I would highly recommend it. If you've got plenty of mule deer or plenty of mule deer opportunities in other states this year, yeah, throw in for coues deer. It's still a cheap permit at $300 for a non-resident. It's not bad when you compare it to some of these other states.
And, just like mule deer, there is a few select units that they manage for higher quality, that they manage as under the alternative management program for higher buck-to-doe ratios. But what we found in coues deer is it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't.
I mean, any unit can produce an absolute monster buck. And, I mean, it just kind of goes to show you why every unit can, just because they can hide in such small areas. They're pretty nocturnal. Most of their rifle seasons, even if you see the number of permits, they issue a lot of permits. They hunt them, and they hunt them hard. But they're hard to find during the bulk of those seasons.
A lot of big changes for this year. I mean, more than anything, every unit's going to roll back with the calendar year. Yeah. So your third rifle, or I'll call it, on mini coues deer units won't start until December 1st.
Yep.
And that'll go till the 10th, which pushes it very close to the late, not rut hunt, but I'll call it the latest hunt with a rifle, and that's December 15th through the 31st.
One thing that I think is very important for people that want to draw a tag or hunt coues deer this year, even if you don't have any points, let's say it's your first year of applying, take a look at some of the random odds.
Yeah.
Because the random odds for some of these coues deer hunts, they're pretty good. I mean, yeah, they always have a bonus point level where the 20% of the tags draw out at, so there's always going to be that. But some of these, it might be 80%, maybe 100%.
Even some of your top units or alternative management units, if you stay out of the December season, you could be looking at 30 to 40% random draw odds.
Pretty crazy.
With no points, just for going in. So super good opportunities there. I will mention, if you have youth hunters, the youth hunts are still awesome. And I think it's one of the most underutilized hunts in Arizona are these youth seasons. They give them oftentimes the first crack at the deer, the earliest season dates, which might sound not good because it's early, but the deer aren't pressured. A lot of times they're still holding in their summer, early fall pattern. And you're talking the first, second week of October, a youth hunter being able to go in with a rifle and hunt coues deer or mule deer in most units and shoot any antlered deer they see. Like, it's a fun opportunity. And some of the coues deer may even still be in velvet. Like, it's still pretty early for that.
Yeah.
But temps are warm. It might coincide with your kid's fall break. I think it's a great one. And it's a $25 permit for non-resident.
And the only people that are in the field during that time frame are youth. There's not older guys or gals that are out there chasing them around. I mean, it's all youth. Yep. And it's a lot of fun. And I agree with you. It is an underutilized tag. And that's another thing. Look at the random odds. Some of these random odds are a little bit rough, but at the same time, you look at that, there's a cap. Because once you're 18, you can't apply for them anymore.
You're out.
So there's a cap at how many in there. Most of these will draw out in the bonus pass at 2 to 4 points.
And success rate stays surprisingly high on these youth hunts. And granted, they can shoot any deer they want, but if my youth hunter was considering going to Colorado, of course you're going to try to get them over there where you can, but there's going to be a ton of hunters, right, on public land. It's going to be a different experience than, hey, let's go to Arizona and learn how to glass for deer in the desert or in the high country, and no one else is here. We get to hunt first. We get pick of the litter. Like, you should probably take your youth to Arizona every year that you can while they're in that youth age.
And we have awesome outfitters that absolutely love these hunts. They love taking kids on these hunts. They'll bend over backwards.
There's nothing else going on. We don't really have other seasons. Elk hunts are over for the most part, and so it's a good time of year, that early to mid-October, when they'll take you out.
Yeah, it's a heck of an opportunity. I'm glad Arizona does it.
Yeah, you can still put in like a strip hunt, rifle deer hunt as your first choice for your youth hunters, and throw in a second choice youth hunt, right? And they're going to consider both of those going into the random draw. So your first two choices do matter. Don't forget that. And definitely start building your youth points. The $160 adult license is only $5 for youth. So it's arguably, for a youth deer hunt, it's the cheapest state there is in the West for youth.
I wouldn't look at, I mean, the only knock that I ever hear on these youth hunts is, oh, I can't hunt the best units for mule deer.
Yeah.
Like they don't have well, you can hunt the 𝗙𝗃𝗏, but for a doe. But outside of that, that's the only knock I ever hear on it.
Sure.
But, man, when you're a kid, you just want to see animals. Have fun.
There's a kid hunt on the strip would be really cool for the dads.
Yeah.
And probably not very cool for the kids. Like, Dad, where's all the deer? This is dumb. My cell phone doesn't work. I can't send a picture.
Yeah, exactly.
No, these hunts, there's a lot of deer, and they're going to be more fun. So we help people go on those every year. Remember, deer points in Arizona are just deer points. So you can't apply for coues deer and mule deer unless you split your two choices, because they consider both of those.
If you draw a coues deer hunt and you were hoping for a mule deer tag, well, guess what? Your points are gone.
Yep.
So
we'll definitely do another podcast later this summer about archery deer in Arizona, but biggest things to consider now is all the 2023 calendar year deer tags are sold out for non-residents. They started a cap. They're gone. You cannot buy one. There's not even any more return tags coming up that we know about. So if you already have a tag in hand, we're going to provide you a lot of unit information, how the harvest quotas work in our upcoming July magazine. So we'll talk more about that later. If you want to make sure you have a tag for next year, meaning January 24 through December 24, you're going to have to jump on and buy that non-resident tag December 1st.
I mean, it is Arizona at the end of the day, so we could find a hidden quota somewhere that wasn't dispersed.
Kind of like their limited entry tags.
So, I mean, don't hold your breath, but it could happen.
It could. Yep. And they start running short on money, and you got to keep the lights on. Just start printing tags, baby.
Exactly.
Let's talk about bighorn sheep. The often talked about and discussed topic in Arizona, with very few people that actually get to do it.
Yes. And I think the big thing this year is tags.
Sure.
They bumped the tags up quite a bit. I mean, this is –
and which is not the norm across the West right now. Utah lost some tags, especially for deserts. Nevada's way down on desert permits this year on their quota. Arizona goes up.
In which Arizona is not known for increasing their bighorn sheep tags.
No.
They're not. They
very
are
conservative.
Very, very conservative. And realistically, I mean, it's awesome to get to hunt sheep. Anyone that gets to hunt a sheep, I mean, it's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. It is going to, in any unit, in my opinion, over there that is eligible for non-resident hunters to apply for, any unit is going to be an awesome hunt. I mean, they manage for 100% success. Some of them won't hit that, but it's either, I mean, it could have been the guy didn't hunt or he didn't. I mean, there's all different, but it's not for a lack of population of sheep or opportunities to harvest.
I think that's what some guys worry about. Like, well, I don't want to get a sheep tag in a super tough unit where there's no sheep. It's like, no. You're thinking of a Montana Unlimited. You're thinking of a tougher hunt, right? An Idaho, Frank Church Wilderness. Like, these are not that. Most of Arizona, there's plenty of sheep to hunt. And like you said, they're way skittish and scared of giving too many permits.
I mean, realistically, it's always been the outfitters love the limited tags. And they just
they get to hunt every year.
They can hunt it every year regardless.
Multiple hunts.
And so it's harder. I think it's harder for them to swallow having a big tag increase like this, because eventually, yes, if you start dispersing enough tags, some of the quality will come down, but maybe not, because that's what we thought about 𝗙37A. And guess what?
It's still up.
They're still slamming 170 rams.
No.
And so I think there's a stockpile of rams in Arizona, and they're to the point now to where I think they're understanding that every year that goes by when these 8, 9, 10-year-old rams live to see another year, it's just another opportunity that's wasted.
It's the same thing we're dealing with in Utah on these units that have an average age of elk of 9 years old. Well,
Yes.
That's too old, but in order to shoot consistent 370, 380 bulls, you have to be wasting a bunch of bulls on the top end. And so when you talk to a sheep hunter or sheep manager, it's how many sheep do you want to waste? There's a lot of deadheads that get picked up in Arizona every year from lions, from old age, from whatever.
Yep.
And that's just the trade-off we're giving to keep quality high. You don't want to shoot a bunch of 140-inch sheep? Okay, well, you're going to waste a bunch on the top end. So they're flirting with that line. We had an increase of 15 total sheep permits this year. So I think we're sitting at that mid-150 number, 156. Does that sound right? Mm-hmm. For total sheep tags. And that's what they're going to base the 10% non-resident quota off of.
Yep. And it's not like they just added a bunch of tags to these units, because the other side of this, and they flirt with this all the time, and I don't know why some of these units go back and forth, but they just stratify the hunts, right? Yeah. They'll divide this singular hunt. If they want to add tags to it, they'll just create another hunt. And realistically, they shorten the season a little bit, but let's be real. It's 2 days. Yeah. It's a 2-day to 3-day hunt. Some guy, if he just wants to thoroughly enjoy it and hunt the entire time, he can hunt and pass, hunt and pass, hunt and pass, hunt and pass, and probably end up shooting the ram that he passed on the second day on the last day.
Right.
So, but it is good that way.
And so what he means is like looking at a unit like Unit 28 for desert. They had 2 tags last year. Instead of just bumping that hunt to 4 tags this year, they split the hunt into 2 3-week hunts and do 2 tags on each. So they doubled the tags from 2 to 4, but they split it into 2 hunts. So that creates 2 hunt codes, and that could eat up both your choices. So you're going to have 2 choices on your application that matter, and each hunt, meaning season, is going to be a different choice.
Yep.
Don't apply. We see it every year. Non-residents apply for the hunts that only have 1 permit available. Those are resident only. System won't tell you that, of course. It'd be way too hard to program that in the system. Like, you're ineligible for this hunt. Now we'll just take your money.
Yep. Take your money and draw dead.
Tell you good job.
Yep.
But do not apply for hunts that only have 1 permit available. That happens. And then do not apply just for the top units if those top units are typically going to the bonus tag holders. So 20% of those tags are going to draw out first to the guys with 33 or more points. If you don't have 33 or more and you put in for Canyon Lake, Swirl Lake, like,
you're not getting it.
You're not getting it. And that's how we put it in the magazine. Even though there's going to be, 2 tags available on that hunt, 0 are going to be available in the random draw. So you are 100% wasting 0.0% chance of drawing a unit that max point holders are going to grab. And they're going to grab the best most of the time.
Yeah, and because of the way they disperse those bonus tags, they'll take the entire sheep quota and pull that 20% out, and whoever puts in for what unit, that's where the bonus tags come from. So it doesn't necessarily have to come from that certain unit, but there's always units that max point applicants are putting in for because there's just better rams in there. And you'll even see throughout looking, I mean, if you go down through our chart, you'll find units that just had stratified hunts this year that they stratified 100 to 2. 12B East, they wanted to add tags to that, and now all of a sudden that one went from 2 hunts to 3 hunts.
I know.
So now there's 3 hunts in there, which
three each.
It's not a bad thing.
No.
I mean, it doesn't bother me. I mean, there's some guys that wish there was only 1 tag on the unit. That's just crazy because most of the guys are done in a day or 2.
Right.
So it is good. I'm glad to see that they're issuing more tags in the state. That's more opportunity. Yeah, when it comes to non-residents, 1 more tag. But guess what? That's 1 more than we had last year. Yep. I'd rather see 15 added than 15 taken away.
No kidding. Someone's going to get them.
Yes.
And we hope it's some of you listening. So I don't have a lot to talk about on certain units. I mean, you did a pretty good write-up of average scores, what they've been killing in those units up till last year even. And it's like, come on, you're going to kill a good ram anywhere on any of these hunts. So you might as well just go.
Yep. And be careful. The one other mistake that they make, they go back in, and this is one thing to pay attention to. Don't apply for the same hunt code you did last year expecting to get the same hunt.
Right.
Some years it'll line up. Sheep this year, it is not going to line up.
Yep.
They added so many hunts that now all of a sudden that hunt code is not associated with that hunt anymore. So pay attention to the hunt code when you apply for it. Make sure that that is what you're wanting, right? So don't just go off a hunt code.
That's right. Same thing with Rocky sheep. It's all one category. Sheep is sheep. Your sheep points are sheep points. You can split your choices, one desert, one Rocky choice. You can do them all Rocky, all desert. You can kill one of each of those sheep species in your lifetime. So if you really want a Rocky because you already have a desert, I would put both choices in for the Rocky hunts.
Yep.
If you would take either, I would probably put both choices on a desert, personally.
You just have better odds on a desert.
Yeah.
If you look through the odds, there's more hunts to select from, way more opportunity, more tags issued. It's got better odds.
Because a lot of the max point holders are still taking those Rocky hunts.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it leaves no random chance.
And it's sporadic.
Right.
Like,
because you don't know what those guys
want. A year or
want.
two ago, there was like no tags taken on the Rocky for the max point applicants. But now, here's the thing. Now we're getting into a new group of max point applicants, right?
Right.
And so that new group of applicants that is now max point applicants, because we drew the old ones off for the most part.
Yep.
Now all of a sudden we got a new group of max point applicants, and there's probably a whole group of them that are like, I'll take a Rocky. I'll take a Rocky.
I know. It is funny. You never know what they've been sitting out doing. And they really should have a meeting with all the 86 max point guys and be like, all right, guys, we're going to draw straws and see who's applying where, because they're competing against each other. And if all of them put their hunt choices on the same hunt code, it would actually draw down a point level.
Yeah.
And those max guys would get hosed.
Yeah. No, it's the truth.
But right now you don't know where they're going to apply. So don't forget to apply in Arizona. June 6th is the deadline. You want to give yourself plenty of time to apply, especially if you're doing multiple people, whereas every species application is a totally new process. You have to type everything over again, do your credit card again. There's no shopping cart. I mean, that would be like super advanced stuff, right?
Yeah.
I don't see how they could ever do that.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't want it to seem like we're just harping on them, but man, I mean,
they deserve it a little.
We are, because their system, and trust me, we see them all. We see every system out there.
Sure.
Their system, when it comes to, I don't want to say ethics, because they're doing the best they can, but
customer service. I mean, everything.
They just aren't hitting the nail on the head.
Yeah, but since COVID, they stand up in their meetings and say, "Hey guys, we did great. We had an increase of applicants this year. We sold more licenses. Keep up the good work." Pat each other on the back. Status quo.
So did California.
Everywhere.
So, you know what I mean? So that's not. I guess that's not my bar of how they're doing as far as in the draw process itself and throughout. So we would like to see something done a little bit better.
I wouldn't mind to see a licensed vendor like 𝗙𝗂𝗄𝗂. It's a third-party vendor. We're actually watching the Nevada draw. They have a live feed right now. It shows you how many entries and tags they've awarded. And it takes them just a couple hours to run the draw once the data has been validated. And they're going to have results 8 to 9 days posted live after the deadline. That's just barely over a week for a giant draw like Nevada. Yep. So the transparency of that system, I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's light years ahead the checkout process that Arizona is.
Oh,
from
my
an
word.
Applicant
and
standpoint.
going down through the draw reports, everything is in order.
Matches.
Yes.
Yep. Definitely check out the draw for Arizona. It's in the June magazine, which is available online now and arriving at everybody's house if you ordered the print magazine. And obviously give the Hunt Advisors a call if you have any specific questions about the Arizona Fall Draw. It's a fun state because trophy potential is so cool. Everybody should consider it, whether it's for yourself, for your youth hunters, or if you have a relative that lives in Arizona, definitely build points for them. It's much cheaper, and they could mentor the tag down to one of their kids or grandkids if you got youth hunters.
It's definitely one of the better states, in my opinion, for opportunity. It's often looked at as
Trophy only.
trophy only. There's
Yeah.
not. I mean, I got to apply for that state for 37 years to get a tag. Not necessarily. There's some pretty darn good hunts out there.
Especially coues deer, early
Yep.
season, whatever it may be. Outside of sheep, there's a lot of opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sheep, there's a lot of opportunities or a lot of units, but just very few tags.
Yeah. Thanks for listening today. Have a great May, and we'll talk to you later.